Rocker Ted Nugent was publicly called out by a Michigan man after he insulted Black Lives Matter, and specifically people who believe in Black Lives Matter. So now there's video, but I can't show it to you because I'm worried about copyright concerns, of course, because it's from a local news station, WMMT. But they reported that the confrontation came during a Republican-backed Constitution Day event in Centreville. Here's what he said to the crowd. "Aren't there any BLM punks who want to come up and harass me?" Yes. Well, yes, of course. Within moments, Jalen Brown approached the stage. Jalen Brown is black. And here's what he said. He asked him, "What's wrong with Black Lives Matter?" Ted Nugent's response is, "Black Lives Matter doesn't give a shit about black lives. They're standing by while blacks are slaughtering each other. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization." At that point, Brown literally took the microphone and said, "Black Lives Matter too, Black Lives Matter too." So he tried to start a chant. Obviously, when you try to start that chant, Black Lives Matter too, notice, right? Because remember, the central theme of All Lives Matter is that, well, what about the rest of us? I mean, you're making it sound like only Black Lives Matter. No, he's added Black Lives Matter too, like in addition to other lives. No, he did not win over the crowd at all. And so not only that, but according to WMMT, he said, he explained to the crowd that black people had been mistreated throughout history. Look, you look in an actual history book, not the ones that are literally coming out of Texas or on PragerU or in Mike Huckabee's whatever propaganda nonsense. No, you look at the actual history, you look at before civil rights, and of course you look at the slave trade, realize that, yeah, we've treated black people pretty bad in the country, historically. And so, yes, that's true. And he added, "We're not here by choice." Someone in the crowd, of course, replied, "We didn't bring you." Yeah, okay, that's fair. Sure, you didn't specifically bring them over. However, there is that lasting legacy of the transatlantic slave trade that kind of had an effect on the black community in this country for hundreds of years. So, look, after all of that, the crowd decided they were going to drown him out by chanting, wait for it, USA, 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 and All Lives Matter, of course. So now, if you wondered why All Lives Matter is bullshit, there's the absolute proof. Every time All Lives Matter is used, it's used only to shut down black people. When they actually say, actually, no, our lives are being devalued compared to everyone else's. So in reality, it doesn't seem like all lives matter because all lives won't matter until our lives matter. Makes sense, right? And here's the thing. Where is all lives matter when a white person gets killed by police? Does that ever happen? No, all lives matter, very, very silent. Where in many different occasions, Black Lives Matter, when white people are shot and killed by police officers, Black Lives Matter is there saying, his life mattered too. His life mattered. You know why? It's because it's not, All Lives Matter is basically a foil to Black Lives Matter. And every time it's used, that is used to shut it down. That's it. And let me give you an example, by the way, of BLM actually supporting white people who were killed by the cops. The officer who murdered Daniel Shaver. So now that's Philip Brailsford, right? And remember, that entire encounter had to do with a deadly game of Simon Says between Shaver and Brailsford. Shaver, of course, unfortunately lost that game to an officer who had the words, "You're fucked," engraved into the barrel of his gun. So understand that that's really that situation where, oh, if you don't follow what the officer says 100%, and by the way, he tried, and the video is absolutely heartbreaking. You've probably already seen it before. It's been out for quite some time. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. And so there it is. And there are other situations, there are other examples as well of people in the Black Lives Matter movement coming in and saying, actually, no, this white person killed by police, that person's life mattered too. And guess what? Even though black people are killed more often as a share of their of the population, I mean, like we're defending all of the victims of police abuse. And so, by the way, that Daniel Shaver still, I mean, he got acquitted by a jury. It's disastrous. But anyway, so don't tell me that Black Lives Matter is the terrorist organization. No. Nobody terrorizes communities of color more than police, unfortunately. And the irony, of course, is that, look, despite that, black communities do want police. What they want is they want better policing. Now, of course, I would go further. I believe that we should defund the police. We should take the money that we use for the drug enforcement and all that stuff and all the heavy weaponry and reinvest it into those communities and really kind of build up these communities instead of keeping them down with police. But again, mine is not the popular position because there's a massive misunderstanding of what defund the police actually means. But anyway, the other point on terrorism is that Ted Nugent is the last person who should be shouting terrorist at people. Okay? For one, he previously told politicians that he doesn't like to go suck on his machine gun. I know, of course, it's just a Reddit. He's just messing around. As the Daily Beast chronicled, Nugent discussed shooting Harry Reid during the NRA's annual meeting in 2015. In January 6, 2016, he called for both Obama and Clinton to be tried for treason and hung. Nugent also once called for Hillary Clinton to ride one of these guns into the sunset. So just to show you his history of violent rhetoric, on and on. And of course, he says N-word, racist things all the time. But Ted Nugent, he has sworn off violence. Yes, he has. Oh, actually, in 2017, let me give you this interview. He told WABC radio hosts Curtis Silva and Ebony Williams, quote, "I will avoid anything that could be interpreted as condoning or referencing violence. I condemn violence. I'm 100% against any harm to any human beings, particularly my brothers here in America." So, of course, that was after he got a few visits by the Secret Service. Ironic, right? But here's the thing. What do you think calling Black Lives Matter terrorists actually does? Again, the BLM protests after George Floyd, specifically, 93% were peaceful. 93. Overwhelmingly peaceful. And of the times where there was not peace, it was led on, instigated by police and right-wing provocateurs. So come on. But what this does is that it condones violence against black people and defends it, both by police and others. And that's what's important here. And look, it's insane to call this group terrorists when all they want to do is rein in the bad police. Shouldn't that be a goal for all of us, to rein in bad police? Well, when they look at it, though, they look at police killing unarmed black people as, well, no, that's good policing. That's exactly what we want. He had it coming. He must have done something. And so, again, their argument, BLM's argument, is, again, that cops have too much latitude to be able to kill people. That's why we need to strip out qualified immunity. If you actually hold cops accountable for killing people, the result is they're going to kill less people. At which point, maybe we can get them and reorganize them and restructure them somehow so that they might actually be able to protect and serve like everyone thinks they're supposed to. Brown later told WMMT that he was offended when Nugent called Black Lives Matter a terrorist organization. He said, quote, "I love the Constitution. I love the rights that it should stand for. There are people who are taking those and misconstruing them and taking them in a different direction than what it should be." I love how he says should, because right now, that's not what's happening. Not everyone is getting the same equal protection under our laws. For example, you look at how many black people are killed by police or incarcerated relative to the populations, and you'll notice that it's pretty high. I mean, the often cited thing is 1350, right? But the thing is that conservatives who argue 1350 are saying that they're inherently more criminal as a result of what they go into genetics, they go into cranial size and all this weird stuff, right? because they don't want to admit that it's socioeconomics. That it's socioeconomics as well as historically racist institutions and racism, inherent biases among white people. Now, the thing is, and the reason that they don't want to admit that stuff, other than, of course, to hold on to their petty hatreds, is, well, that it's much easier to blame inherent violent tendencies or whatever than to actually go and fix things. Because we can fix those things. We can pass laws, different laws. We can tear down the old style of policing and build it to something better. But, of course, the problem with that is that it's hard. Oh, it's so difficult. While, of course, lying and dehumanizing an entire group of people and using it for political fodder, by the way, while treating them as simply a monolith, all the same, is much, much easier. And, of course, unfortunately, with the Republican Party, you can see exactly the direction that they have chosen to go in. And they're not going to change anytime soon. This Southern strategy worked for how long? Yeah. And it continues as the as the voting population among Republicans continues to shrink, i.e. they age out, die off, etc. You see the direction that they're going by doubling down on hatred and racism. So there you go. Sad. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.